Welcome to the podcast, Sara Wiles. Should we tell them how we know each other from a long time ago?
So funny. As I'm like in my bathroom getting ready this morning, I'm like, is this yoga? I met
This
you
is
through
Down
yoga.
Dog. This is many years ago. You're living in Atlanta. I'm in Atlanta, and we're doing yoga on kind of a dirty hardwood floor, and it hurts. Yeah. You remember that? Yeah.
In oh my God, Youngblood.
Yep.
Youngblood.
Yeah.
Oh, and I loved every minute of it. And then there was the three-legged cat, Jolene.
Yes. Oh,
that would come. Those were really special days for me. And
pre-kids, pre-everything. So what a wild time. I want you to start by just telling the audience about the amazing work you do, and we're going to dig in today. So tell us about you.
Yeah. So my background's in corporate event planning. I did that for 8 years, and then I had a baby, and everything about your life changes as a mother after you have a child. I worked for a company that really did not understand what that meant to birth a child into the world and then have to change what happens in your life afterwards. And so after fumbling around, for about a year and a half, a friend said to me, hey, you're really good at planning things and figuring things out, because it's what I literally did for a living. And she said, you should be a VA. And I was like, the heck is a VA? This was 2017. And she told me it was a virtual assistant, and it's essentially just being an executive assistant or a personal assistant or a business assistant for people, but remotely. So your job opportunity, you don't need to go into an office. You don't need to go see someone, although you could if that's part of it. And so I said, okay, sure, we'll figure that out. And we did. And I was really successful very quickly within I'm trying to remember how long, maybe about 9 months in. I had so much work that I had a team of 9 all moms working underneath me because the demand was so big. And at the same time, I had so many women, from my periphery, people that I had known from Atlanta, from yoga, from college, from growing up, from high school, who were also entering this stage of motherhood, saying, how are you doing what you're doing? And how are you working from home? And how do you have this flexibility, but you're still able to bring in an income? And I would just, kind of casually tell people like, well, this is how I'm doing it. And like, here's another person that needs a VA. So do you want to get started? Here, just take this person because I can't service them. We're full. And then I realized that there was a need there, that there were so many women, not just mothers, women in general, who were such a great fit for this type of work because they had so much experience in corporate positions, other jobs.
Yep.
That would be so successful, but they just didn't understand how to actually do it, both on the skill side, but also on the business side and the peopling side, which we all know to be the hardest part of doing everything, is the peopling. So that's it. In 2019, I made a course, and now here we are in 2024, 2025. And this is what I do full time. I train virtual assistants, and I help women from around the world, mothers and not, start businesses, bringing their skills, services, talents to people around the world to help them.
Amazing. And so originally what prompted this conversation was basically a symptom I was seeing with so many of my clients, where we're talking about, if you look at their to-do list and you look at what's on it, and I'm like, okay, since our last call, have you done A, B, and C? And they're like, no, because I have really been doing X, Y, and Z. And X, Y, and Z is, trying to figure out how to create this brochure in Canva, figuring out social media, captions for this, right? All of these things that are so important, and yet not a use of their time and not in their zone of genius. Like, it's not what they're great at. Like, and same for me. Like, I can tinker around with all of these things and it's not a good use of my time. And so that's when I was like, okay, do you have an assistant? And it would start with, well, like, what do you mean? I can't afford that. And I was like, okay, this has to stop. So I sort of have this rule inside my coaching program of like, no one's allowed to do Canva graphics. Like, no one's allowed to, because somebody out there will do it better.
So much faster.
Thank you. Okay. So it's not just about social media, although that is one bucket that you can hire an assistant for. But I think it would be helpful for this conversation, for the busy founder, for the busy nonprofit leader, to think about what are some amazing VA tasks they could offload. And also sub-question of like, is this a full-time job? Isn't this a full-time job? Why it's so accessible to start.
Okay, so what are some of the tasks that they can outsource? I love the frame that you gave in the beginning, which was, what are the things that only you can do as the founder, as the leader? And
Mhm.
that number of things is actually pretty small that
Yeah.
only your brain can be used for. It's not the Canva graphics. It's not the posting to social media. It might be your face on social media, but it's certainly not you posting. It's not diving in the data of a spreadsheet with your donors or, your volunteers or people you want to do outreach to. It's not email marketing. It's not all of those things that somebody else will actually do a better job at and
Mhm.
probably do a whole lot faster and make look a whole lot better
Mhm.
and save you to do the things that only you can do. But also, and I think this is the part that like gets lost, make it so that your mental capacity is so much higher when you're doing the things that only you can do.
Mm.
And I say this as somebody who's also a founder of a company who, year over year is also trying to grow, also runs a team, also does all of these things. When I'm fresh in my brain, I produce better work that only I can do versus when I've just been sitting in Canva for an hour trying to make something look good because I'm not a graphic designer. I'm good
Yep.
enough to be dangerous. So I think what's beautiful and hard about the role of virtual assistant is the possibilities are endless. And it all depends what you need and what kind of gifts and talents you find in the person that you're hiring. Something that we tell our VAs all the time is the way to be successful in their role is to be super resourceful, right? So we
Yep.
don't ever want to have people that are like, problem, I can't fix this. We want somebody to be like, here's a problem and I already Googled 3 solutions. Which one is the best? Which one do you think you want me to execute on? Because ultimately you're the decision maker as the owner,
Love it.
founder, leader. So we want them to be resourceful. We want them to be good, quick learners. We want them to be people where, you just move to a new fundraising platform or a CRM platform and it's brand new. And we want them to look at that like an exciting challenge versus, oh my gosh, I'm so annoyed that there's change, right? We want people who are like, ooh, cool new thing. Let's figure this out. So really it's about finding the right person. So yes, they already understand how to do some tasks, but also they're there to grow with you and they're excited to grow with you because they're resourceful and because they're good learners.
That's so good. Okay, a couple things. First
Mm-hmm.
is, and one of the reasons I specifically wanted to have you on is because you have this matchmaking service,
Mm-hmm.
which is free. And so I've gone to you, I've sent my clients to you, and you basically input the type of VA or really just the type of tasks you're looking to offload or have help on. And so you
Yep.
input that and then they match make you with several of your trained VAs. So I've gone through this process and I'll give you like an example. So one of them is my own personal VA and she's been with me now for several years. And so I gave her our content calendar and I was like, this is what we use for a content calendar at Splendid. And she's like, great. And then within a month, it was the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. Like she took it to a next level and not because she made it this long, elaborate thing. She made it better. She added formulas and drop downs. I don't know how to do in Google Sheets, but she certainly did. And then I was able to actually say, hey, I see that you have this skill set. Can you go inside of my programs and make the content calendars I give my clients better? And it was just like such a great way to be like, you're not necessarily always looking for somebody to replace your brain. You're looking for somebody to like make it better, faster, smoother, less friction. And so that was a great example of that. Yeah.
I love that. Okay. Then you talked about like that. Is this a full-time role? Is this not?
Yeah.
So the beauty here again is it gets to be what you want. I think sometimes as a founder myself, it feels scary to let somebody into your baby, right? And when we're talking about nonprofits, we're talking about people, we're talking about affecting change in the world. We're talking about really freaking important work.
Yeah.
And it might feel really scary to bring someone on. It might feel really high risk. It might feel like, but I want to meet that person in person, right? And I really want to get a vibe check and feel them out and all of those things. And I hear that and I get that and I see that. And just like AI is the future of so much of the work that we're doing and we can be mad and bitch and moan about it as much as we want, but like we're going to have to get on board eventually. It's really the same thing with virtual work. And so what I would say is the beauty of VA work is it can be really low risk in the beginning. You can bring somebody on for 10 hours a month, right? That's like 2.5 hours a week. That's nothing. And from a financial standpoint, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I would argue that is actually like, if anyone is listening and they're like, I can't afford it, do that. Do it right now. It's the smartest way to scale. Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So you could find a VA and, we can talk about rates if you want to at some point that are, they're really all over the place depending on, experience, background, how long they've been in the space, things like that, but let's say you get somebody who's a little newer and they're in like the $25 to $30 an hour range. Your brain, as a full-time hirer, might be thinking that's high, or, I don't know what people are thinking, right? But remember that one, you're not paying them payroll taxes, health insurance, benefits, any of those things, right? This is a contractor in your business or in your company.
Yep.
And you can hire them really low risk. You can be like, it's 10 hours a month. So if
That's
they're
right.
$30 an hour and it's 10 hours, you're making a $300 risk.
That's it.
It's not much.
And I want to speak to the pain point because, like, so many of my clients are irritated with their CRM, would be the best feeling I can say, or overwhelmed. I mean, some of them have a love relationship, but for the rest of them, they're just like, I don't know. Like, it's just, they can be clunky. They can be hard to use.
Yeah.
Again, it's not their wheelhouse. And hiring somebody just to do maybe social media or just inbox management and your CRM, where you're like, I need a file right now, as we're recording this. This is what everybody needs. I want a file of all of the donors who haven't given in 2024. Send me that. And the average executive director who doesn't love their CRM, this could take hours.
Yeah.
This could take somebody who's just naturally tech savvy, I don't know, 7 minutes, right? And it's such, like, imagine that in that 7 minutes, they're doing that. You're making calls to those donors. You're sending those donors emails. And then I want to offer another thing that I've had my own assistant help me on this calendar year, which is cards, holiday cards, outreach, touch points, where you're like, again, pull that file of whoever they are. And you're like, hey, I need some recommendations on holiday cards. Send me the 3 best ones that fit our cause and send me 2 sample things that I can write in it, and I'll pick one. Like, this is the type of things that frees you up to go have a major donor meeting. These free you up to do all the things. So all of these tasks are just such smart tasks to offload and do in conjunction with a VA, even at a small hours per month. Yeah.
100%. And the beauty there is, let's say you love that person, right? They likely have more capacity, so you can continue to do more and bring them on more. But it's just so low risk, right? And listen, you're not going to give that person the keys to the castle on day one. You're not going to say, here's every password, here's everything, here's access to everything. You're going to make this a slower process, usually, so that you can build trust with that person over time. And as somebody who has a fully remote team, I have been in business for 8 years. There are some of my team members I have never met in person, but I would trust them with my child. Right?
There we go. Yeah.
That is saying something. It happens over time. The other thing that I'll note here is, like, exactly like you said, right? Yes, they can get into the back end of your CRM. They can manage, they can pull that list for you in 7 minutes when that maybe would have taken you 2 hours. But also, trust is built over time. And so I do want to set a very realistic expectation that, hey, listen, you might get a unicorn on your team and they just blow your socks off on day one. And you're like, this is the best thing I've ever done. And also, you have to remember that if you're hiring somebody for 10 hours a month, it's going to take them 4 months to do what is the equivalent of a full 40-hour work week for you.
There we go.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So, and my point there is, right, if you think about hiring a new person and having them in your office for 40 hours a week and what you would learn about them in 1 week, right? That's going to take you 4 months of this other person. And so my point there is, like, it does take time, especially when you're on those smaller, hour packages.
And I think for a smaller team, so I'm going to speak to the nonprofit that is under $1 million. Usually they have the executive director. They usually have somebody running programs. And I would argue your hire between those two should be this role. Yeah. Many times they come to me and they're like, can we just hire someone to do fundraising? I'm like, nope. You as a nonprofit leader, you're still fundraising. Yeah. And usually this person could be in charge of social media. They could help you with that. So I would argue, before you hire an employee, this is the right person to hire. And I want to also speak to, like, that org size. They may be at $200,000 a year, $500,000 a year. Most of those, and I lovingly say this because I've done this too, we don't have our own SOPs, meaning, y'all, to the VA, we are kind of a hot mess for the VA to join our organization. And you're nodding, so that's okay, right, Sarah? Like, we don't have a welcome packet. You know what I mean?
It's all right.
And
I think that's the point, is you really want somebody who doesn't, this is what we say on our end, right? Because we train people in a program, they pay to join this program. And we always say, from an ethical standpoint, we are only doing a good job as a business if we are telling people who are a fit for the program, and we're also telling people who are not a fit for the program. And so what we always say is, hey, if you're somebody who wants to walk into a job on day one and you want an entire employee handbook and you want step A, B, C, and D to be told to you, this is not for you. You will not be successful as a virtual assistant because they will not be successful to your nonprofit. You need somebody who comes in and they're like, oh, it's messy. Let me figure this out. You need somebody who sees mess and is like, I love making calm out of chaos.
Yes. And so that internally happened for me. And so at some point, one of my assistants said, we're creating some SOPs. And I have a second assistant right now I said specifically, your new task is, I did a brain download and I said, this is everything it takes to launch my program. And it was like task. And we put him in Asana. And I said, the next thing I want you to do is create a board for that, a SOP, so that next time we launch, we're just duplicating that. And it's like, it's okay. And we're doing this, we're co-creating this together. It's messy. She's down for it. One of the things she said on our first, discovery call together was that she's like, I have 2 boys with ADHD. I'm used to setting reminders. I'm used to double checking. I'm used to being organized. I got this. And I was like, say it again.
You're like, you are the woman for me.
Yes. Yeah.
I just want to share a quick tip for anybody that's listening to that feels maybe a little stuck around that or a little scared around that piece. One, and everybody's heard this, I didn't make this up. This is somebody else. I'm sure it's in a business book somewhere, but there's like this concept of training somebody that looks like I do, you watch, you do, I watch, and then you do, right? So remember that. And then also remember Loom is your best friend. If y'all don't know Loom, do they know Loom?
They know Loom.
They know Loom. Okay, great. Like, just Loom yourself doing tasks. If you're the one who's doing social media, if you're the one who's pulling the report, if you're the one who's doing the thing, and you want them to do it exactly the way that you do it, instead of having to sit down and write an SOP and spend all of your time doing that, which is going to want to make you pull your hair and your eyeballs out.
No.
Just do it and film yourself doing it and film yourself talking through it. And that is now your living, breathing SOP. And eventually, if you want them to put that into, word form, your VA can do that for you.
Yeah. It's all of the things, y'all, that your board has said, wouldn't it be nice if? It's all of the things that are at the bottom of your to-do list. It's all the things that you come to coaching calls and you say to me, Christina, I would have had that donor meeting, except I was pulled in this other direction. We were on a call this week and 2 separate clients basically said they were having some issues with like the tech one was on their fundraising tool. One was on like an integration with their CRM and their email donation tool. And again, I'm like, who can we offload this to? Because you need to go raise 100K.
Right.
Who can we offload this to? Because a lot of those tools have great like online support, chat, etc. And couldn't we say to our VA, kind of a 911, I need you to figure this out in the next 48 hours, something like that. Like, let's troubleshoot this. Let 100%. Me know what they need. Yeah.
Beautiful. Now it's
$25 an hour, y'all. $30 an hour. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the hiring, kind of like the nuts and bolts, what a board member would be like. What is this?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So you want to talk rates? Tell me what else.
Rates and what is your recommended process for hiring?
Hiring. Beautiful.
Because hiring's kind of, I have thoughts.
Oh, I want to hear your thoughts.
My thoughts are just like, oh, it's so hard. Yeah.
Okay, rates. So in general, we're going to see newer, greener virtual assistants. And I don't want you to think that means anything, right? Like green could just mean that they're new to being a virtual assistant, but they were a corporate, can I say BADASS?
Yeah.
Badass. Thank you.
Yes.
Right? Like they were a corporate badass, but they're just kind of like getting their feet wet in the virtual assisting world, right? You might get somebody in the, $25 to $35 an hour range. That is either somebody that's newer, could be somebody that lives in Pocatello, Idaho, and $30 an hour is like the end all be all for them, right? I'm thinking of a student that we had in our program who lives in a very small town in Minnesota, I think. And when we shared these rates with her, she was floored. Like the beginning rates, because she was somebody who worked in a hospital. She did something in the medical field, and never in her entire career, this woman is over 40 years old, has she ever made more than $18 an hour.
Wow.
So the idea that she could make $30 an hour as a newer VA blew her mind. Then there's some people who are, living in New York City and those rates are different, right? So anyway, newer in general, you're looking at between 25 and 35. Then somebody who's, been in here for a minute, maybe has a little bit more experience, you're looking at 35 to 45. And then those rates go up. If you want somebody who's like a tech specialist, maybe it's somebody who has experience in the nonprofit space using one of these platforms that you're already using, then you're probably looking at 50 and up.
We had a client inside the club that specifically needed somebody who could do MailChimp, automated sequences, and Zapier. It was like a very specific, we needed to do a Zap to this, to that. And we went to your matchmaking and we found somebody, and yes, they were a little bit higher. They were in the, I want to say like, but that makes sense because I just named 3 different tools and everyone collectively was like, yeah, I don't want to do that. How do we offload this? So it was like the best $50 an hour you can spend. And I want to offer this. I'm not kidding. This is what the org was doing before. They were manually taking the subscriber from one database, exporting it and importing it, and then manually sending out a 5-email welcome sequence. And it's like, we don't have to do that anymore. And now I'm mad at it. I'm mad that you're doing that because this was probably a 3-hour problem, $150 an hour. Maybe we get that VA once a year to do a tune-up or to run some reporting a couple times a year. Like, what a beautiful, beautiful use of $1,000. Yeah.
Oh my God, please. Like it's insane.
Yeah.
And probably faster too, right? So if you're like, hey, but we could pay somebody in the office, whatever it is that you're paying them in the office. Okay, cool. But how long is that going to take?
I find Zapier personally complicated. I find automations, they can get annoying. Like it takes, and I would like to think I'm pretty tech savvy.
Yeah.
And no, this is no good. This is not a good use of my time. I have a friend who I say Facebook ads manager, Meta ads manager. I hate it. It's clunky.
Same.
I do it. I hate it. She's like, I love it. I'm like, that's who you want.
Loves it.
I was like, you're telling me you love the back end of Meta? She's like, so good. I'm like, again, that's who you want because she's going to do it 10x faster and she's going to find the loopholes. Hey, why don't we add this there? Why don't we do this there? I didn't even know about that because I have the thought that I hate it. And so.
Right. 100%. Somebody loves it. We hate it, but it's like, I think goat cheese is disgusting. Some people love it.
Yeah.
So you just have to go find the person that loves it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So we've talked about rate. Let's talk about your process for hiring. Like, what's a great way to find the person? And then also in my world, I've kind of heard like you should have them do a case study or a test project. Like, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Okay. So a couple different things. If you are hiring somebody for a project, like you just said, you're like, hey, we just need somebody to come in. We have this one-time project. It's MailChimp, it's Zapier, it's whatever the other thing that was that you said, right? You probably don't need to you want to make sure somebody's proficient in those systems, but you're not going to do it as an intensive a hiring process as if you're hiring somebody with the intent that this person is going to be your right hand or, somebody that's going to be on your team for a very long time. So I just want to differentiate between those two. I'm going to give advice like you have somebody that you want on the team for a long time because that one is a little bit more complicated.
Yep.
Okay. So just like the term executive director, right, is an umbrella term and means something very different organization to organization, as does the term VA, right? It's an umbrella term. The other way that I would say that is like, you could say mom, right? Like the term mom and how somebody moms looks different in my house and your house and people's houses that are listening, right? And so sometimes people get caught up in this idea of like, oh, I just need a VA and a VA will solve my problems. But it's like, no, you need a virtual assistant who does XYZ 1, 2, 3, right?
Yep.
And so being clear on the front end, what it is that you want out of that role is going to help you in your hiring process because it's going to increase the likelihood that you get somebody on board that's actually going to help you solve your problems versus hiring for the umbrella role. Does that make sense?
Yep. I just need somebody to help me. You're not going to be very happy if that's your criteria and you go fill out a form to be match made. And I will say I'm a real life example of this. I've been very vague about what I want. And the last time I needed to hire, I was very specific. Specific. And I even had your VAs basically say on the first call, thank you. Like, wow, you really laid it out here. You really laid it. And I was like, I did. And it took more effort on mine. I was very specific about the tech. I was very specific about the areas. And it took more effort on my end but worth it for both of us. Keep going.
Totally. Great point. And it doesn't have to take an hour, right? Like this could literally take you 20 or 30 minutes. It just didn't take you 2 minutes.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's number one, right? Like just be really clear about what you want. The second thing that I would say, people get so hung up on proficiency of technology. And it is in my deepest opinion that is not the thing that you should be hung up on. If you know that this is going to be a tech heavy role, yes, you want to make sure that you have a tech person. You want to make sure that you have somebody. So do not hire Sarah. Do not hire Christina. We know enough, but we're not the people that you need. You need a tech goddess. Now, does she need to know all the tech that you use? No. She's probably not going to, especially in your industry where there's all different CRMs, there's all different fundraising tools. What you want is, like I said in the beginning, somebody who's a quick learner, somebody who likes learning, and somebody who is techie, if that's the role that you're filling for, because they're going to pick up your systems quick. They're also going to be able to move with you as you bring in a new fundraising system because a new one just launched and you're hearing it's the best one on the market and it's going to make your life so much better. Well, guess what? Because you didn't hire for the specific task and you hired for the soft skill.
Yes.
You're good now, right? Like,
okay, so we're going to give people a couple of examples because I can already feel the resistance of like, they don't understand our world. And I asked them on the call if they had heard of our CRM, Bloomerang or Neon One, and they had no idea. Y'all, both of the ones I just mentioned are very modern. They're not clunky. They will go through a video training or help, and they will get it so fast. One of the things I stopped asking, I don't know that I ever did, but when I was interviewing VAs, is I never say like, do you know XYZ social media scheduling platform? Because they're so like Later and Planoly and all the they're so similar that I'm like, if they know one and they, like you said, they have that skill, they'll do it faster than me. Like they'll do it faster than me. So it's So I think that's a really good distinction of what we're looking for versus, okay, what else?
Yeah. So I think soft skills for sure. Yes. Put in there, like, this is going to be a tech heavy role. This is going to be a customer support heavy role. This is going to be this. They want to know what they're doing day to day, but you really do want to look for those soft skills in that. Define, what you want them to do. Define the tasks that you think that you want them to do. I think something that's really beautiful is if you can tell somebody what success in the role looks like. That's a really great one. Now, again, we have ChatGPT, y'all. We don't have to use our brains so much. We can use our brains for the things that we need. So you could get that whole document together. You could say, hi, chat, I'm hiring a VA. These are the tasks that I want them to do. Can you help me figure out what success would look like in this role? And chat will tell you.
Yeah.
But then you're really clear to them, and it's really clear so that you know what success looks like. You now have an easy way to track success, and they're able in an interview to say, yeah, I think I can meet those expectations, or no, I don't think I can meet those expectations.
Love it.
ChatGPT, y'all.
We love it.
What else did I want to say?
Test projects.
Test projects. Yeah, I think test projects are a really great idea. If you are specific about what you want something to look like. The thing that I want people to know is it is appropriate to pay for test projects. We see a lot where people are like, I want somebody to do a test project, but I don't want to pay for it. And it's like, okay, but like, that's not how the world works. We have to pay people for the work that we're doing, especially, because that's what we should be doing. And so appropriate, but you do need to pay them an hourly wage for those test projects. Yeah.
I love it. Or is an alternative, and this is kind of what I've done before when I'm like, I just need to move fast and make some decisions a little bit. Is just send me tons of samples. I have done that. So for example, if I know this person is going to be blogging or creating social content or Canva graphics or captions or something that would have where they could send me examples or case studies. Sometimes that has been my workaround for a test project. Thoughts?
100%. Yep.
Okay.
Totally.
All right. Wonderful. What else can go wrong? Like, what else should we be cognizant and looking at? Like, we think we found our person, board says yes. Then what? What's a great way, or maybe a positive spin would be, what's a great way to like make sure that this relationship goes well?
Feedback. Having a consistent feedback loop all of the time. Something that we do now when we hire on our team, and we're primarily in a female industry, and primarily, I mean, everybody on my team is female, right? So understanding that, we let people know on the front end that we are going to provide them with a crap ton of feedback. So
Mm.
they know, hey, don't assume that feedback means that you're doing a bad job. Assume that this is how this role looks. I want to get to a point where I feel like you 100% get this and you can do this on your own. And the only way to get that, I don't expect you to come in the door and know exactly how I would do it by way of osmosis and psychic
Sure.
abilities. Like that's,
Sure.
and like that's not how this works. So creating a feedback loop, using Loom for that feedback loop. So if you have asked somebody else to do a task and they do it and you go to check it and you're like, this isn't how I would have done it. Our fast moving hair on fire brains are going to have two things happen. One, we're going to be like, ugh, this isn't working out. I hate this. Right. And two, we're going to be like, I just want to fix this myself and move on. Okay. Pause.
You're
Take a
in
deep
my
breath.
head. This is the past decade of me like, Christina. It's the same. I think there was an Office episode where it's like, move over, I'll do it. It's that energy. Okay, so we pause.
I get it. I mean, I'm the same way. I did this for years and now I'm like, okay, but I keep ending in the same place where I'm overwhelmed and I'm not getting what I want out of people, but they seem really smart. So like it must be me. So this is where Loom is really great because while you're fixing the task, record it, send it back to them. That's it. So it's two birds, one stone. I wish that there was another analogy or another way to say that because I hate that analogy because it's a terrible thing to say. We're just killing birds, but I don't know another one. Whatever. So record yourself and create feedback loops and let them know that that's how it's going to go. The example that I always give, and I know that this is not the best company in the entire world, but it's the only example I have. So we're going to go with it. If you've ever been in a Lululemon store, whether you've been in my Palm Beach Gardens one or any of your 52 Atlanta ones, or you go to Canada and you go to one or the UK, in general, the experience that you have when you walk in that door, the way that you are greeted, the way that you have in your try-on room, the conversation that you have with the, employee at the checkout is consistent. You feel the same way. You go in there and people are never rude to you, right? Like I go into other stores, I go into Athleta and Vuori and like they're a little sassy, right? Like Lululemon associates are kind, they're caring, they're knowledgeable. They can tell you everything about the legging that you never knew that you would need to know. And the reason for this is because they have created a culture of consistent feedback. It's the only way it's possible. It's annoying. I hear you. We would just like people to get in the role and just know what we want and never have to tell them anything, but it's not how it works.
Can I offer to you, this is an objection, and this is one I personally have dealt with, is I feel bad. I feel bad being like, that ain't it. Like, like I feel, I guess that's the people pleaser in me. I'm paying this person, and yet I'm like, I don't want to, it's fine. So how do we deal with that?
Yeah. So two things. One, tell them on the front end. You're going to feel less bad if you set the expectation that there's going to be feedback, because that's the thing. You're worried. You're like, how are they going to receive this? And are they going to think that they're doing a bad job? And I want them to be happy and I want them to like me. And those are totally normal things. I want everybody on my team to love me too. Right. Yeah. But if we set the expectation on the front end, they're not surprised and shocked when it happens. Yeah. And you have less resistance to it. So that's number one. And number two, this is practice. The more you do it, the better you get at it, the better result you get. You see that you're getting your needs met, and then you're going to naturally want to do it more because you get what you want out of the person. So good. And I just want to say I have struggled with this for years too. And 2024 was the year I really worked on this, and the practice has really helped.
Yeah, I actually think I'm taking away from this episode is I always say it's easier when you say the hard thing, like when a person's about to have a donor pitch and they're like, listen, I'm feeling a little nervous. I actually think that softens everybody. And so even just for me to say to a VA, I'm going to give you a ton of feedback. So get ready. It's just how we do it. I think would soften the entire blow in my head of them being like, oh, this is too harsh. This is too much. Right.
Totally. And you can also, I mean, everybody's heard of this, but like you sandwich it, right? So you go back and you say, hey, here's what was really great. Here's what I'd like you to fix. In general, we're going in the right direction. Thank you so much. That feels really good. Right. And like, that's the feedback I want too. I'm in the middle of like we're doing our like 2024 debrief and planning for 2025. And like the question I asked my team was like, how can I make your life better? Truly, like, tell me. I want to know because I want you to be happy on this team. So tell me.
Yeah. Okay. That just made me think about, so in the nonprofit sector, we have a large churn. with employees. So we see a large amount of churn. And part of that is just burnout. Part of that is they're doing usually the job of 2 to 3 people as one role, one salary.
It's heavy
And
work.
it's heavy work. And I just want to offer, if everyone listening could just hire somebody at 10 hours a week or even 10 hours a month, it will help. It will help. So I would take this to your board and say, we need to do this. I've had organizations, again, at the 100K, 200K level, and then a million level also all do this. And it has helped their team. I have an organization that's transitioning. Their ED left. And so I said, y'all have to hire an admin person. And they did. And it's been so much better. So everyone really look at that, and you can afford a couple $100s a month, no doubt. And this person can grow with you. Person can grow with you. I wanted to give a little bit of an example because a lot of my clients know we talk about this method I teach, which is working with influencers and ambassadors. And it's called the social street team method. And one of the use cases for a VA is you as the organization, you identify who our ideal influencers are to partner with. But you could actually hire a VA who is very comfortable in the DMs, right? We would call this social selling, I think, in the for-profit world, but somebody who's or social engagement, this could be a VA role you hire. And so you can come to our calls, you can build out your street team, and you curate who you want on it. You curate the pitch, you curate everything, but you actually have the admin, the VA person, go through and do the DM outreach and track it. And so you can at a glance, you're nodding. Yes, you can at a glance check it every Monday and go, how's our dashboard? How's it looking? Where are we? And that VA could also do research for you too. Yeah.
Yes. Oh gosh, yeah. They love research.
They love research. Yes.
Yeah. Engagement is a big thing that's happening in, in our space, for sure, in the for-profit space. So this is a thing that, yes, somebody that likes having conversations would love to be in your DMs managing these conversations. Mm-hmm.
All right. Before we wrap up, I have a couple more questions. The first one I have is, because you are not in our world, I have to ask a couple of curious questions. And I know that you support a lot of nonprofits. I know that you're a very vocal donor and advocate and champion for many. And I'm curious on just a couple of just curious on preference. Okay. How do you like nonprofits to communicate with you?
How do I like nonprofits to communicate with me? I'm an email girly.
Okay. Love it.
Personally. We get a couple flyers in the mail, but I have personally never seen a mailer that makes me jump out of my socks.
Yep.
So I like email.
Perfect. Great.
And social. I love social.
What takes you from lurker to action taker?
Okay. So
an action taker could be donor. I purchase tickets to an event. I volunteer, etc.
Yeah, totally. Couple of things. Number one, as a personal brand, I think that, and you can disagree, I'm not in your world and I'm not the expert. So I just want to preface what I'm about to say with, do not listen to me, listen to Christina. I think the human element in a nonprofit is so important.
Oh no, listen to Sarah. Yes. Okay. Yes. Keep going. I'm excited. I've been saying this all year.
Okay, great. People want to buy, right? And I know that they're not buying, but let's just assume it kind of is. It's like selling. You are selling. It's a transaction, right? People want to buy from people. So they want to know who the executive director is. They want to know who the team is. They're going to connect more. They're going to see that you're doing this really freaking important work in this world, and they want to see you. Yes, they want to see the people that you help, but they want to see you too. And so I think for me, when I can feel connected to, I'm going to say a brand, an organization, and I can see their leadership, I feel a whole lot more connected to them.
I love it. Yeah, I think we're craving as humans connection. I think we're craving humanity. I think we're craving the real. You're great at doing that on social, and it makes the bonds deeper, lasting, stickier. It makes me want to share something when I actually hear from an organization where I'm like, oh, I know Giselle. I feel like I know Giselle. I've never met her, but I know her.
Yep.
Because the way she writes to me, I know. Yep. And by me, I mean me and 10,000 other people. Right.
But it feels like you.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Thank you
for sure
for that. Thank you for our donor case studies.
Oh, you got it.
Q&A.
And I think like share more behind the scenes. Like there's like, I'm sure, and I'm sure you do a whole thing on social media, and I'm sure that social media is such a stick point for your people, but like share the boring stuff. Like people will feel more connected to you if you share the boring behind the scenes stuff, and then they're just naturally going to want to buy. The other two things that I would say is make stuff easy, right? Like throw links in there, have trigger words. Like if there is a friction point to somebody paying you money, it's going to make it so much harder. Do not make them jump through hoops. Make it freaking easy on them.
These are great.
Yeah, I think those are the big things. Yeah,
these
like make
so
it
good.
easy. Yeah.
Love it. We have one of our clients in the club that's using ManyChat. And when she first said it, I was like, oh my God, we have a nonprofit using ManyChat. Shout out to Kathy. I have a really
good friend.
Yes.
Go Kathy. I have a really good friend locally who owns a yoga studio. And I was like, ma'am, you need ManyChat. She was like, what is ManyChat? I'm like, so you need to make it so that somebody's like, class. And then they can sign up for the class that you're talking about in your Instagram post. And she was like, wow. So now she has it.
Perfect.
Yes.
This has been so good. Okay. We ask every guest on the podcast to share a thought that they like to think on purpose. So I like to think of this as like a mantra, a go-to, maybe even an affirmation. Would you share yours with us?
Yes. I have like 9 million, but I'm going to give you one that I most recently wrote down on a Post-it note that's literally right here. Hold on.
Yeah.
This is, and I don't know who said this. I want to say it's Glennon Doyle, but I could absolutely be wrong. Before we say something, share something, put it out into the world, the questions I ask myself are, is it true? Is it kind? And is it necessary? And this is what I've been sitting with a lot lately. So
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
You're
Sarah,
welcome.
Thank you for coming on. Where can everyone connect with you and connect with your assistants? Like, where can we go matchmake? We'll link to it in the show notes. I know we have a specific link for matchmaking.
Yep. So it's, I love that you asked this because of course I have 2 websites and I never know. Okay, we got it. Okay. So if you go to startandgrowco.com/matchmaking, you will have the link to matchmaking. It's 100% free. This is a free service. So there's no cost to us. We're going to get your information. If you're really struggling to kind of nail down what you're looking for in a VA, that form is going to help you.
Yeah.
Spend 10 minutes on the form instead of 2 minutes on the form. Okay. Yep. You submit that, our team will get it. It'll probably take us about 48, 72 business hours to get back to you. And we will send that out to our list of trained virtual assistants based on the information that you submitted. And we'll get back to you hopefully with a couple of matches. And then you take it from there. We connect you. We send emails to those people that you're connected with. And you go from there. We exit the process.
That's right.
So that's number 1. If you just want to connect with me as a human being and see how ridiculously silly I am on Instagram, you can go find me at...
It's fun.
Thank you. At Sara, SARA_Wiles, WILES. And we also have our, that's my personal brand account. And then you can also follow Start and Grow, it's at the Start and Grow Co. And that's our business account.
Amazing.
That one's
Thank you
funny.
so
We're
much.
a little funny, but not that funny.
You're super funny on yours. We like it.
Thank you.
And you are such a champion for causes you care about. And so let's just, even for that, I just want to say thank you. Like, thank you for lifting up those causes. I know you're a vocal supporter of quite a few. So it's awesome to see that advocacy happen. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. This was amazing.
Amazing. All right. Go hire. Go find yourself a VA.
Get it.